don't like that.
Can you say all that again, please, Steph? I'm just kidding.
I don't remember what I just said.
Great. Yeah, was it like difficult for Eric to pull personal stories out of you, or once you started writing it kind of flew?
Y'all know Eric. Yeah, I feel like Eric, everyone nods. Yeah, Eric. Just like, it wasn't even, I feel like the questions Eric asked weren't even, they weren't leading questions at all. They were like genuine curiosity, because this was so much like my everyday lived experience. I found it rather unremarkable, but he was like, wait, you can't eat this, or like you can't just like go get coffee with me now, like you. And I'd be like, no, I've actually like thought out every minute of today and how it's gonna go, so that I don't end up in a puddle on the floor. I just make it seem like I'm being spontaneous. And I mean, it's gotten a lot better since then, but a lot of writing the show was actually just explaining genuine questions, answering genuine questions from people as I went.
That's great. It seems like this play has just come so full circle right now.
I know.
As you were inspired by Yes, and here you are speaking to Yes.
Yes.
So now I'm sort of moving on from writing to performance. What was it like performing your own words, and what about it was better or worse than acting in, you know, say Into the Woods or a play by a different play?
Well, the first time I performed it, it was like 25 minutes long. And I did it for Carol and some other people in the development office, and it somehow ended up in New Works Now. So I somehow stretched it to like 40 minutes, but every time I've performed it, I've been doing something else, namely school. And so I've never gotten to just like be the actor on this piece. It was always like, Steph, get through college and then like take an hour to like relive these moments in your life. So this was the first time, like by the time I got to tech, I'd already performed it more times than I ever had in my whole life. So it was actually memorized, which was sort of a big deal. I guess performing it this year, I realized how much I've moved on from, especially a lot of the emotional stuff that goes on. And almost, I really appreciated that, but almost grew to, let's just say, like, reliving your worst traumas for an hour every night for 2 weeks is like difficult. Namely because I am mostly in a good mood always. So I would literally come in and be like, Brian, stage manager, I don't want to cry tonight. But like, it was really special to be able to talk to people afterwards who were like, oh, I have a family member who's a vet. I have a granddaughter who's an athlete. I have like this person in my life has a seizure disorder. And like, I feel like I understood some little part of what they go through watching your story. So I mean, it's all worth it. But performing it, I got to have fun because I wasn't like worried about writing, and I wasn't worried about memorizing.
Yeah, that's great, but I can imagine really difficult to like relive over and over again. Did your script evolve at all during the process? Were you rewriting, or was it mostly stagnant?
We landed on version 38, which was really foreign to me because I'm the type of person who went through school writing one draft of papers and barely rereading them and turning them in. Don't do that. But I was like, edits, what are those? But I showed up to Northern Stage with version 35. So it was pretty much there. It was a lot of just like very nitpicky things. But yeah, it's evolved quite a bit to now be 55 minutes from the original like 20.
Yeah, interesting. So what was it like being the first person to perform indoors professionally since COVID hit? Like, was it terrifying or exciting or everything?
Not terrifying. A little bit not terrifying for my personal safety. Just knowing how new the building is and how few people were allowed into it. I always felt really safe. It just felt like, I mean, everyone was like watching and waiting to see if this would go well.
Like the entire country.
Like
all
the entire
literally around the
country, because I found out that we were doing live shows when someone sent me the New York Times article.
Yeah, Carol's like, I think we should probably tell Steph.
I was like, hello? Literally on the floor of my apartment for like 12 hours, just like sitting and listening to, so that's how I found out. And I was like, oh no. Cause like if I didn't feel 100% grateful, I felt guilty. If I didn't feel excited, I felt guilty. But also very valid to be fearful of all the safety things. It was just like a lot of conflicting feelings and like not wanting to mess it up for anyone. Like the day I found out, I left New York and I went back home to my parents' house and I was like, I have just been winning and staying healthy for too long. And I feel like my luck is gonna run out. So the next day I went home to DC and just like stayed home.
Yeah, well, I'm so grateful that Northern Stage has been so diligent about our safety protocols and everything. It was really a safe production, and we did it. Woohoo! In COVID. All right. Those are all the questions I have. So now I want to open up the floor to all of you. If you want to raise your hands just like this, there's enough where I can, oh, well, or you can do the virtual raise hand, which Finn, you go.
And the actual hand, yes. And no question is off limits. Just to say, like my life is out there. So
Go for it, Finn.
Awesome. I just really want to know what the rehearsal experience was like, because you wrote it and you're acting in it. So how do you transition into that? What was that like for you?
yeah, the first week was the hardest because we were virtual. So I was in my apartment and just across the parking lot actually, which was really nice. I could like see Northern Stage from my kitchen, but I'd rehearse online. And then because I was also considered part of the production team, I'd go to production meetings a lot. And that was the part that I didn't super like because I just wanted to be the actor. But then we got into the space. We had like 2 days in the space and then we teched in one day and then we had previews. It was very fast, but I think comparable to a normal show where you have to deal with 20 people. Like we'd get to hour 2.5 of rehearsal and Carol and I would both be like, so I'm tired. Are you tired? Like we can be done because there's just one of me. So it was a really relaxed, albeit quick process.
Great. Eli, go for it.
So I wanted to know if at all, how much of this isn't autobiographical. Like, was there anything that you tried to embellish the story with, or if it's all just you?
Oh, the tea. The literal only sentence that is not 100% true is that me and my best friend Lena were almost more than friends. Not true. It just was a joke that landed well. Like so never happened. But that's the only part, and I would look at her when it happened and be like, is, theater. But yeah, everything else, fortunately, unfortunately, is true.
Wild. Isabel Ackerman first, and then Isabel.
How did you balance like your mental health and your art during performing this? Because that's like so difficult to have to relive that trauma every night.
Mhm. It was on days where my anxiety was already heightened. It was a lot easier because as soon as I was acting and able to like be in the space where I was supposed to be showing my anxiety and portraying it, I was like, oh, well, I don't actually have to like sit here still. I can just do what my body like wants to be doing now to not freak out. But on days where, like I said, I was just like really happy, I just cheated. I really leaned into the happy parts and allowed myself to really be happy and grateful for those parts of the story. But there were nights there was a night where in the last like pill sequence I was laughing and it sounded like I was crying, but I was just laughing because I found my ASM's hair in the pill bottle. And I was just like, I can't do this tonight. So like, we act. We do what we need.
And the audience is riveted. They're like,
oh my God, yeah.
Edge of tears and laughter, and you're like, hair.
Oh my God. Yeah, I was literally like, I can't. Yeah. So I definitely cheated some nights, which
What a
is, yeah.
great lesson for young actors.
I mean, yeah, you just never want to put pressure on it's so hard to do the dramatic roles because you're like, okay, and now I have to cry, and that's when it doesn't come. So you just have to like be in every other moment just as much. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you. Isabel, go for it.
This is slightly less related to the production, but you mentioned like having a tattoo that had like a lot of meaning with kind of overcoming struggles. Did you ever actually get that tattoo?
I am scheduled to get it in January. I'm leaving to see a doctor in Canada who I think will do the trick, y'all. I leave on Monday, so keep y'all updated. I don't know. But
Do what trick? You mean headache trick?
yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it could be gone. You're telling me. Yeah, it could be. My goal was always that one, I like acknowledge that I should think about a tattoo for a long time before I get it permanently, especially in our field. And so I've always said that once I'm symptom free, I would get the tattoo. So we're just throwing that positive energy out there.
It's
on the books. Thank you. Yeah.
Great. Does anyone else have any questions? You can raise it like, okay, you, Raj, go for it.
So this is not about the production, but it's about you, what you're doing right now. Are you writing a play like currently up to this day?
I am writing a play right now. I'm writing a play about do you want to know what it's about or just a yes? Okay. It's I don't know. It's about a woman named Polly Murray who was a civil rights activist who was Black. And she had an astounding career. She was the first woman at Howard Law. She was rejected from Harvard on the basis of sex, and she responded saying, if I could change my sex, I would. And that was sort of the first incidents that we think, basically, had she had the language support and resources that we have now, she would have identified as transgender. And that's most likely why her work with RBG, with Eleanor Roosevelt, with overturning Brown v. Board, because her paper did that, not Thurgood Marshall, like all these monumental things were done because of this Black trans person. So I want to look at the personal side of all of that.
I just got chills. You are onto something, Steph.
Oh my God, thank you.
Like, Tell me.
Yeah, I want there to be like 3 versions, to see Polly as we saw her as a woman, and see Polly as a trans man as she saw herself, and as a non-binary character in yeah, so they'll be interchangeable and experimental, who knows, we'll see.
Well, please pass that script along. I can't wait to read it when it's done. Does anyone else have any questions? Oh,
Flynn?
Flynn, I see. Yep, go for it. And then Eva, you're next.
So I'm just curious what it was like when the play was put out, because that's a very, very personal story. And I'm just curious if it was like, it felt good to get it off your chest, or if it was like, I don't know how people are going to react to this.
Yeah, I sort of allude to it in the show that I struggle a lot putting sentences together because the words will just disappear as I'm speaking. And so this show is sort of saying everything I would ever want to say in a way that I had complete control over. So it says everything I could ever want to explain. And in that way, it's very freeing because I feel like I don't have to personally face to face tell a lot of the people in my life that this was happening. Like my parents, this is how my parents found out a lot of this was happening. And a lot of my family, extended family, will be finding out that this was happening. And also just for all the all the people in my life that I just like resent for dropping me at some point, or just like assuming I had it perfectly, are now watching it, and I'm getting messages from like people who bullied me in high school being like, oh my God, I had no idea. I'm like, I don't super care, but I don't know, it's served me in a lot of ways in having hard conversations without actually having to have those conversations. Yeah.
Wow, we have so many people so excited to ask you questions, Steph. I know, Eva, you're next, and then we'll get to the people who've raised their hands.
Has there ever been a show where you had a headache for real, a migraine for real?
A show ever?
Like in It's Fine, I'm Fine specifically.
I did have one show where I was like to the point of nausea, not feeling good, and it had been raining for like 3 days straight, which is like, I feel like an old man when I get to that part, like, oh, I can tell the weather, how my brain feels. But for the most part, actually, it's something that I always work out with directors and designers ahead of time. And Brian, my stage manager, this was my 5th show with him, so he was really aware of it all the time. He would step in if need be. And during tech, especially, is the hardest part for me because those are the 10-hour days of lights in your face. So tech days were the days that everyone was like, how we doing? Checking in. But shows, for the most part, it was an hour in and out. No problem.
Emily, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question more about the singing and the songwriting, which, first of all, your voice is stunning. Oh my God. Wow. So talented in so many ways. But yeah, so did you write these songs as you were writing the play itself, or were they like in part written before, or like how did that work with the time frame? And also, like, how does songwriting fall into your art as far as theater, and also like separate from?
I have been told I should maybe try songwriting more. The song, the big song. So I wrote that 3 years ago. Is it 4 years? Almost 4 years ago, a week before Julia and I broke up. And I sang it to her. And it was just, yeah, because the song's about her. Yeah. Don't know why I put my dead grandmother in it, but it was to Julia. And then as I was writing this show, I got to the Julia part and was like, I don't really want to talk about it. when I have this super special song to do it. I don't know. I have grown up listening to country music, so those are the only kinds of songs I write, which I don't know, not the most marketable, but we'll see.
One thing I forgot to mention earlier is that Steph actually co-founded an organization that sort of supports female identifying, transgender, non-conforming folks to write musicals, so lyricists and stuff like that. So, you know, maybe someday she'll support her own musical that she writes. We'll be looking out for it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure some of y'all understand this, living where y'all live, that I put a lot of pressure on myself. So I sort of don't start writing songs because I'm like, what if it's not good? And I just don't want to deal with that. But yeah, you should, I mean, if you do, Emily, keep going. Show me stuff.
Clem, let's hear from you next.
I was gonna ask, is this like the longest possible you could have made the show? Or if like the audience had infinite patience, would you have added more scenes and more songs and more like rhyming verse? And if so, what would it have been?
No, this was about it. This is tapped out. Yeah. Carol even like resurrected some pieces that I was like, maybe not. Yeah. It started over an hour and then I just memorized my lines. So it got faster. Yeah. It's a lot of words. I mean, it's a lot of words. Yeah.
It's very impressive that you were able to.
Couldn't do anymore.
Thank you. Cordelia and then Eli.
Okay, so first off, I think it was really interesting because when we did Brown Girl Dreaming, I knew that you had a concussion, but I didn't know like that was happening, which was like really interesting to see. But also I want to know like how do you feel about other people performing this?
I feel great about it, I think. Because I feel like it applies to anyone who's dealing with anything invisible. It's not specifically a Black story. It is a little specifically a queer story, but I think it would be interesting to see someone else take it on, and hopefully I've written enough for them to understand who the character is.
I think that'd be very fascinating to see because I can only imagine it as you. Eli, go for it.
I'd love to hear about how you develop this extremely unique movement vocabulary that we saw throughout the entire play.
Okay, question. I had a choreographer who was the same choreographer for Citrus, who I have personally fangirled over for years in her professional dance life. And I use my body a lot when I speak, and it's how my like silliness manifests. And so she would just watch me while talking, like on breaks, on like doing different things, and be like, okay, so when you do that, like I just do it bigger. And like what I love about her is that it's not like, okay, and now we're gonna dance like I'm used to in musical theater. It's a lot of like, what is this motion that you're usually doing, like putting garlic in the pot, and how can we just spice it up? Yeah, that's yikes. Yeah, so all thanks to her.
I was mentioning earlier that Beatrice said that she choreographed from like her office and over Zoom. How was that?
It literally, oh my God, she literally had this much space and 2 chairs, and she'd be like, okay, can you see me? And then like So if you're here and then you just I'm like, sis, please. We did the best we could. Luckily I'd worked with her before, so she just sort of had to give me like the general move she wanted and the emotion she wanted from it. And we could figure it out. But the Zoom choreography on a delay was not the cutest, as I'm sure y'all might soon deal with or already have dealt with. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it ended up working out wonderfully. All right. So if there are no more questions, we're going to say thank you so much to Steph for being here. It has been such a pleasure talking with you and watching your show and just having you a part of Northern Stage again. And we can't wait to see you back here.
Thank you. I'm gonna drop my Instagram because for real, for serious, a lot of the things you saw in that show started at the ripe old age of 12. So I know better than anyone, you're never too young to be like going through something, and I've been through it all. So if you ever need to reach out, I am there. Chat.
Thank you, Steph.
Of course. Eric's like, I'm reaching out.
I'm reaching out tonight. It's been a long night. No.
Hit me up.
Thank you all.
Thanks for
Have a
having
great
me.
rest of your night.
Good night, everybody.